Hey everybody, it's me, Liv. So I'm going to post a picture here for a new YouTube channel and Facebook group I found called Create with Scrimping Mommy. And Amanda, who owns this channel, does host a weekly challenge. Sometimes she's doing tags, sometimes she's doing other things. So I saw this one and I thought I want to go ahead and give it a shot. So I'm using just some plain old watercolor paper from my stash, nothing too crazy or fancy. I have a whole bunch of my Lindy's that I'm using that kind of match with that color scheme that you saw. I found like it really wasn't spreading the way that I want, and so I'm just going to use a brush because this is just a background kind. I'm not so concerned about how exactly the background looks, besides just making sure I have both of the colors that I'm looking for. Now, I felt like this corally pink was getting too strong, so I wanted to go ahead and bring in a little bit more of the blues, especially some darker blues, so that this project could have that. And you'll see that some of these cans that I have from Lindy Gangs are all different. The tall, skinny ones were something that they used to create. Now these shorter brown ones, shaker cans, are the more recent style that they've been doing. They all have the same pretty much quantity in them. It's just, figuring out what's best. And if you wonder why I flip the paper, it's really just to flatten it out a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and start drying this off a little bit with my heat gun. I'm not going to show the whole thing because it's pretty self-explanatory. And part of it, yes, I purposely left white because that was part of the challenge, was to leave some white space. Now that I'm leaving that off to the side to dry, I don't know if I mentioned to you guys, but I went to a tricky tray, which is like, a gift auction thing, and I won one of the grand prizes, which was a Cricut Maker 3. And I have to say, I don't use my Cricut as much as I should. But I went ahead and got the Cricut All Access, and I actually cannot find my feather, metal dies. So, recently I figured out that I could, remembered I had my Cricut because my kid was reminding me of it. And I said, you know what, let me take out and see if I can find some feather dies. So this is actually designs that I got from the Cricut. It is a very quiet machine, the Maker 3, much quieter than what I'm used to with the previous models. Again, it depends if you're going to use it regularly. Since I really don't, I don't know if it was worth it, but hey, it was a $25 ticket. I'm not going to complain about winning the Maker 3 for it. And so as you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and match the colors again with that color scheme, but purposely leaving some white. And then I think I had showed you guys I've recently gotten a whole bunch of stuff from All in Creates, and they have these awesome die cuts as well, and I'm going to go ahead and use them. I'm trying to figure out what size I want this to be. Now that's actually kind of big. Is that what's small or the big one? I actually think I am going to go with the big one. As I was looking for the smaller one, there's no particular size for it, but because of the size of the feathers that I ended up cutting out from my machine and such, I think I'm going to go ahead and actually use the big one. So now that I figured out that, I'm going to put this through my machine and we'll get started on the actual tag. So I just cut these out actually with my spellbinders from those dies there. And I'm just kind of roughing up the edges a little bit to distress them, just using the side of my scissors. And I have some random stamps that I have in my stash, so I figured those would be good just to pull out and actually use them. Sometimes I buy these like really more cheapy, no frilly stamps that kind of have that mixed media feel with some printing on it. And I'm doing first what we call first layer, which is much more darker, and then letting it just naturally get lighter as we continue to use it over and over again, which kind of gives like the more shadow effect. I'm going to go ahead and stamp on the top level and bottom level so that we kind of have that. As I was looking at it, I was like, oh, I just want to ink up these edges. It was bothering me. So I'm going to go ahead and take my Distress Oxide, just kind of ink it all over. Then I am going to actually stamp a little bit on these feathers because I thought they could really use that too. If you're wondering why I have extra feathers on the side, I actually printed out a whole bunch, figuring I can just keep it for another project. You do have to be a little bit careful, again, with some of these more fine die cuts, because they can potentially become, ripping things. I'm just trying to decide what order do I want these feathers in. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and move on, and then I'm going to think about my feathers. Now, I'm just using a stencil from my stash. I don't actually know the maker of this one. This is one of those ones I got at a scrapbooking stand, and it looks like it's kind of like a DIY. They made their own. I got a whole bunch of awesome pastes from Stamperia for my birthday, and I have some little bit paste left over. I'm just going to go ahead and smear it on here, more because I hate to waste, and two, it actually creates kind of a cool color. I cannot for some reason resist using my fingers. Don't ask me why. I often have very good intentions that I'm going to have clean hands and not make such a mess in my videos. Doesn't usually happen. Now I'm just going to quickly use my heat gun to dry off that volume paste. I'm taking out some of my art glitter glue to kind of tape these layers together. You could use foam tape if you want more dimension, but I might end up putting this overall into a journal. So didn't want too much dimension to it. So just putting some of that glue onto this one. Now this one did end up breaking, so that's why I'm kind of putting it towards the back. I'm going to go ahead and put this white one down, and then finally have one of the other ones with the colors on there. So once I have those all glued down, I need to figure out what sentiments. Now, I didn't actually print out the photo, which has those sentiments in there. I'm having some problems with my printer. So I just pulled out some of the sentiments I have for my stash. Another part of the challenge for this one was to put in some type of like doodling. Actually not a big doodler, so I just kind of randomly pulled out one of my black pens and figured I'd, try to put some doodles here and there, give some texture to the feathers, maybe put, some random doodles, just so it can look like I did this. This is just a plain old marker I have, nothing fancy. I don't even think it's an art marker. And once I have that, then let me figure out what are going to be the sentiments that I use here. Now, I just want you to see before I add the sentiments, isn't it kind of cool? I love all this dimension and color. These are all in Create sentiments that I have. I showed them a long time ago when I bought a whole bunch of stuff over the Christmas holiday from them. All I did was just take a little bit of that same ink here to them. I'm going to go ahead and glue them down onto the card, to the tag. And now I'm just debating, do I want to add anything else? I think I will. I think I am going to do a little bit of splatter because as I'm looking at this card, I think I'm losing a little bit of the pink. So if I splatter a little bit of that pinkish color, and these are some of those enamel type dots that they are, do need glue on it. They don't come with it, from Crafty Meraki from their store closing sale. So I'm just going to put those down. Now, I know you can see the glue right now, but remember, I'm using art glitter glue. So art glitter glue will dry clear. So I don't worry too much about that when I'm putting this down. I just want to make sure I get some of these blues and pinks all over the tag front. And let me give you a close-up. What do you think? This was a super quick project that I think came out so awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you're interested in joining into the challenge, I will put the link for the UT page if you guys decide you want to join in. All right. I hope everyone has a great day, and I'll see everyone soon. Take care. Bye.